Welcome to Fireteam Chat, IGN's Destiny show. Today there is big news. Activision and Bungie have split ways. Bungie will retain the rights to Destiny, the franchise, going forward, but they're going to have to figure out what's going on with publishing. Their current timeline is all locked in. We're also going to discuss some reactions to the recent Niobe Labs puzzles. Joining me is CJ Gibson.
What's up?
Sean Finnegan.
Chomp chomp.
Stephen Rue.
What's up?
I don't even know where to start. I really don't.
How about at the beginning?
Yeah. So
well,
Bungie, Activision, they've separated ways. Bungie retains rights to the Destiny franchise. We did a reaction episode. It was about 10 minutes of different thoughts that were swirling around in our head. Overall, again, just to reiterate, CJ, this is a net positive, right?
I think that's the perception. It's really weird. We said this yesterday. It is all fresh details. So we don't have any information besides speculation, which will be very rampantly. So besides what's public out there, I think I was talking a little bit about Bungie getting to that place before or after they left Microsoft. And yes, I think it's going to be seen as a positive just from a creativity standpoint. Mm-hmm. Sean mentioned yesterday about being a producer. Yeah, when you're in the production world, you want to understand that it costs money to make things. But at the same time, your vision can be sacrificed or have just layers upon layers of feedback and approvals and all the rest of that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's probably what they were facing for years, and who knows when that started. So, yes, I think good thing for Destiny, but also, yeah, like other things could come up on the horizon.
I agree with you. I'm actually in development. I'm developing another feature about a lot of the challenges that they're going to face. Mm-hmm. Are they going to stick with Battle.net for their PC distribution? Is their Sony partnership going to continue? Phil Spencer seemed really happy about this. He's sweeping up companies left and right to try and get exclusives for the Xbox platform.
And he's a big Destiny player as well.
He's a huge Destiny player. Has tons of hours in. Sean, I do agree that this is overall a net positive. I'm very excited for Bungie regaining creative control. I can't wait to see what they do. What's your take?
I mean, I'm on your side. I'm on your guys' side here too. I do think overall this is probably a good thing for Bungie. Like I said in the reaction video, anytime a developer can take greater control of their own IP and make the decisions creatively that they want to make, that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But when I put on my producer's hat, a level-headed perspective of this shows like, let's not pretend that Activision didn't offer Bungie things that are positive as well, right?
Of course,
money. All of those Destiny events, playable demos, like press, marketing, all of that stuff. Accessibility is a huge thing. Activision has the ability to put Bungie's game and all of their games on every console across the world, on everywhere.
Yeah.
These are problems that Bungie are going to have to solve on their own now without the support of a mega corporation with tons and tons of dollars like Activision.
Yeah.
Now, is that a bad thing or a good thing? It's too hard to say right now, right?
Yeah.
But now the onus is on Bungie to make sure that they get it right.
I think everyone's going to be watching them. It's going to be eagle-eyed. They're like, what are you going to do? What's next for you guys? And they have the NetEase partnership. It seems like they're in development of a project there based on just how they said they're going to be building new worlds with that backing. Steven, what's your take on the separation?
I mean, you guys already said everything I was going to say. It is an overall positive, but let's be clear here. Just because they're getting a divorce doesn't mean Destiny's going to be the greatest game of all time now.
Yep.
It wasn't Activision that brought that primary ammo or the primary weapon system, the two primaries, one heavy. It wasn't Activision that throttled that XP bar. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Like there are things that Bungie and Activision have both done wrong, and now you can't blame Activision when something does go wrong.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, but I do think because they're not restrained to Activision's content schedule, they will have more time to make better content. But like you said yesterday, we're going to see content droughts, I think.
Yeah, that is a double-edged sword. I mean, we've talked about this at length with Call of Duty franchise and even watching that, lose their campaign, because when you think about how campaigns are played, you do it once and then that's it. And Destiny as a game is really kind of not designed that way. Like if they design Destiny like, hey, you're just going to play it once and that is it, that is a bad business strategy and model. But that needs to be factored into it as well, too, right? So we know that probably that was an Activision influence thing that Call of Duty got rid of the campaign, but we all really enjoy that for Destiny. So what does the next Destiny look like?
Do we really, though? Because you talk about campaign and I think about story immediately. Have we really celebrated the story greatly? With the exception of Forsaken. I think Forsaken's probably one of their strongest storytelling moments, and they have great lore.
Yeah.
But the campaign for Destiny 1, remember, they scrapped that like a year out because people didn't like it. They said people at Bungie,
Right.
according to the Kotaku article,
Yeah.
didn't like it in the state it was in when they showed it. So they redid the project from scratch a year out. That's nuts. And their development cycle has been so tight, which we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah.
This really, really frees them up to explore new avenues of release cadence.
It does, but I think it also puts them in a similar predicament or a difficult predicament as well. Like, think about Forsaken comes out. How long does it take content creators and or game players like us to actually chew through it?
I mean, are you talking about Niobe Labs? Because we'll get into that
Well, I
later.
mean, we'll talk about
Still
that
not
after.
finished.
Well, there you go. But that's different. So, but if you think about like, the buffet is what they're saying, having it be available. They make exceptional DLC drops. Like Forsaken is amazing, but let's not kid ourselves. That takes a long time to produce that amount of content, and it can get devoured very quickly.
Yeah.
Like it'll be interesting to see, what they lean into and want to focus on as this goes along.
Yeah, I mentioned this is basically kind of a reset, and not in terms of like we need to come up with a new idea, like we're for a brand new game, but in terms of taking Destiny forward, Bungie has a lot of philosophical decisions that they need to make, right? Like if it turns out that Activision was the type of company that influenced them to change their content drop strategy from $20 DLCs like Curse of Osiris and Warmind into weekly drip fed content over the course of a year. We don't know that that's the case, but if it was, then Bungie has to assess whether or not that strategy is working, or if they do need to go back to the $20 DLCs, or if it is twice a year we get a 10 to 12 hour big piece that are that's more like Forsaken. Who's to say? And here's the thing: is I want to point out, the audience is always wrong in this situation. No one knows what we want, right?
Right.
When we got big once a year content drops or twice a year, everyone was like, "This isn't enough," right? And then we get DLCs like Curse of Osiris and Warmind. We're like, "These are crap."
Yeah.
And then we get once a week content. We're like, "This is like it's not enough," right? Like so, it's for all intents and purposes, Bungie's in a really tough spot here.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they proceed. What are some of the positives that you would like to see come out of this, Steven? Do you want them to totally scrap their release cadence? Do you want them to develop a new way of releasing content?
I mean, so like the reason why I think they're drip feeding us content like that buffet line is because they realize the mini DLCs like Curse of Osiris and Warmind were not well received from the community. And I feel like the reason why those DLCs feel so crappy compared to Forsaken is they had to push those out to meet Activision's timeline.
Yeah.
We think.
Yeah.
That's what we think. That's
Well,
what we're assuming.
The annual pass was part of the agreement, right? The same thing with the Eververse. The Eververse was sort of a compromise based on my research in the last few days. The Eververse was a compromise because they didn't want to continue to do DLCs. They wanted to work on Destiny 2. So they went all in on Destiny 2 to develop that product and develop the Eververse to allow the revenue share to be continuing to go forward.
Yeah.
And
so like what I'm predicting is they're going to have one big DLC like Forsaken, but there's going to be more depth to it, more layers to it, things that will keep us grinding throughout the year. And then they have these events like Iron Banner, Crimson Days, like, like holiday events. And I think that's what they're going to lean into going from now on. And I think we will start seeing like it costs a lot of money to develop new new races of enemies and stuff like that. But I think now that they have more time, we could see more enemies and stuff like that.
Here's
less reskins.
Yeah. Good point. Here's what I think they're going to do immediately. They're delaying Destiny 3. They're making sure that whatever Destiny 3 is, and maybe it's an evolution of Destiny 2 where it becomes a content distribution platform as opposed to just these regular updates, because they could work with that still. But I just want to see them make a fantastic experience. I want a great story. I want excellent RPG mechanics. And I think they have a vision for what they want to do with the property. They know what the audience wants, and they're doing experiments with that sort of content. Niobe Labs, we'll get more into it later. I think it missed the mark for the majority of the community, but they've learned a lesson there, and they tried something, and they want to give us those puzzles, those sort of memorable moments.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We'll get. Do you have a spot for us to talk about that after in the show?
You want to do Niobe now?
I mean, we could.
No, I mean, we're still on this.
I mean, well,
Sean.
okay. So let's talk about, is there any other details about this? Because, Niobe Labs, I think, factors in. And without spending too much time with it, then I'll just say that I think that's what's interesting is do you feel that the community wanted more secrets and puzzles? Because often, and what's interesting about the Activision announcement is that I think what it proves is relationships are hard, whether or not it's developer, publisher, developer community, publisher, like however you want to, break it down, it's very difficult. And just thinking about what they're going to do next, like I feel like this was like an answer to, hey, we want to have more secrets, want to have more puzzles, want to have more of this. I don't think it was ill-intended.
No.
But definitely it was probably not widely received as positive for the game. But that is, it's a very tricky
I think that's
spot.
an interesting perspective because I very much doubt that it was Activision being like, you can't do more puzzles. Like,
I don't think
Bungie-
so either.
I think Activision is the boogeyman for a lot of people in the community. They take a look at Destiny and the things that are flawed in it, and they say this is Activision's fault. And I don't think that's necessarily true. Now, you can totally see how a company like Activision, which is, let's be real, no one counts dollars better than Activision.
Yeah.
I can totally see how that philosophy found its way into things like Eververse or the cadence of content over the course of a year. But as far as like preventing Bungie from really making the gameplay what it needs to be or the puzzles, I find that to be a dubious claim. But that's where my head's at is like the long-term sort of result of this, I foresee it being Bungie makes better content, but probably less of it.
Yeah.
And then 2, I think that what that will result in is a smaller but more engaged community that loves the game, and maybe you'll see a little bit less dissonance. Like instead of the audience being really hot and cold like they are now, maybe you see it a lot more hot.
You both make really good points about the content release. They're going to have to strike that balance, right? Because okay, maybe the content wasn't the greatest, but they did have a regular content cadence with their DLC packs. We kind of know something's coming in September, or it was.
Yeah.
And we have the annual pass. We know what's happening until then, basically. Now that they have the franchise, they need to decide what their content release strategy is going to be like.
Absolutely.
And if there's huge content droughts, the content droughts could be worse.
Yeah.
And
Because
here's another thing.
They don't have that pressure.
People are saying, oh, this means that there's going to be no more Eververse. I think it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Like
I was
they
going to say
need money now. They don't have Activision's money. How are they going to make
Exactly.
money? They're not going to if
it
you
might
take
be the
Eververse
opposite.
out, how are you going to make money?
Yeah.
Like how are you going to
You get your base sale, and then you have no supplemental income afterwards, except for
well, there could be like like they could lean toward like a World of Warcraft subscription fee. Like
that's on the table.
No, like I
you
would
never
not-
know though.
No,
Like,
I'm saying yes, that's true. I would not like.
So here's
that.
an interesting thing. Why not though?
Just because like I don't think it has. I don't know, man. It's just it's really hard for me to articulate, to be honest, because like I just hear that for Destiny, and I'm like that scares me because I feel like that's going to make the community so small, and like it's only going to be hardcore.
World of Warcraft has a subscription fee of $15 a month, and that was at one point like 13 million for 15 million active players.
yeah, like I'm
not
trying to-
arguing about its ability to work.
Yeah, so I just think it's interesting that like immediately we're so against the idea of a subscription fee. My point is that without a publisher being involved and Bungie basically having total free reign to do whatever they want in terms of how they publish the game, every option's on the table. If I'm a Bungie executive, I'm looking very closely at every option and being like, okay, what's going to be best for one, our studio and developers, what's going to give us the greatest opportunity to make the best game, but then 2, I have to run a business here. Like, how are we going to make money?
How do we pay everybody?
How do we pay everyone? Yeah, like
$100 million is not
to Steven's
gonna go
point,
far.
like we all say, like, oh, like there's too many reskins, there's too many recycled missions, there's too many we're treading the same public areas over and over again. We want new versions of that. Well, that stuff costs, right?
Yeah.
Now you don't have the support of Activision. You're gonna have to figure out how to fund those costs on your own. There is a good chance that microtransactions are the easy and fast way to do that.
Yeah.
That said, I think Bungie knows no one wants that. And so I don't think that that'll happen.
Steven, we really talked over you. I feel bad. Was there something else you wanted to say?
I forgot. But I'm
sorry, dude.
Like I think there will be more microtransactions. Maybe like not as random as you open a loot box and you have a chance at this. Maybe you can like buy the thing you want directly. But like how are they going to make money?
So we actually talked about that, how a game like Fortnite is very different than a game like Destiny, because Destiny's fundamental core is the loot. Like
It's the
playing
RNG
the
loot,
game for the RNG
Oh, they could
loot.
just sell them.
Yeah, no. Like they really
I don't think they'd ever do that.
I'm joking.
No, I know.
That was a joke.
I know, and that's I know you're joking, but Steve and I, because everybody I think is looking at the Fortnite model and going, okay, how do we kind of have our own version of this, or how do we maybe pioneer off that? And again, Fortnite's free, so right off the bat, that is there's a certain incentive or connotation when you're just buying the game. But even now, disassociated with Activision, I feel that we jokingly said, and you see that they're an indie dev. They're not an indie dev.
No.
Like they're small, but they now are their
They are
own,
an indie dev.
But that's what I mean, like within the context of what it is. So now I think that if you bought Eververse items and it's going right to Bungie rather than lining Activision.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen a lot of people say I'm going to spend more money at Eververse now.
So that, isn't that perception weird? Because a lot of times we don't factor in, or you want to think that it's not a factor who the publisher and the developer and all that stuff are. But again, we've said this with BioWare and Anthem and EA and all this stuff. There's a perception, there's a psychology to it that I don't quite understand, but it exists because you see people saying that in the comments.
It was interesting to see people jump onto that so quickly, and I'm like, Activision could still be getting a cut of the Eververse.
We may never know.
So you don't know about that. And like, Bungie hasn't done anything yet. There's a joke on Reddit right now. It's been 8 hours and there's still bugs in the game. Thanks a lot, Bungie. Yeah.
I saw the thread. It's a good thread.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
So on that note, also, I hope people do remember this feeling, because what's weird is to look on Twitter and all this stuff and now see, oh, yay, congratulations, good job, good job, good job. How long does that last for? And that to me
doesn't last long.
And I think that's the reason why whenever I come on Fireteam chat, people accuse me of being the shill. Is that as a producer,
No, they accuse me of being the show.
well,
We all get it
Well, there
once.
you go. But yeah, I think when you're in the content creation space, and when you understand that people are obviously they want to get paid for their craft and their work, but when you're in a passion project sort of space that I believe gaming development is, I guarantee you a lot of this probably division was like goal and alignment and what you wanted for, financially, but also then, just dedication and like teamwork and vision.
Yeah.
So one of the tweets, I believe it's from Deej, I'm not sure, it might have been the actual Bungie statement itself, without saying explicitly that they're self-publishing, did lead everyone to believe that that's what they're going to be doing, right? I forget the actual phrase
it's in
and
the
we could look it
statement
up.
there. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think the chances are of them teaming up with another publisher? Or what do you guys think, maybe just wild predictions and speculations time, what is, if you're Bungie, what is the way forward here? Is it self-publishing? Is it finding a new publisher who better fits with what you're trying to do? Like, what are you thinking here?
The smartest, most beneficial way for them to move forward would be to develop their own product, similar to what Epic did, where they can distribute their own games. I think that would be the smartest way for the PC platform. They can still distribute to PlayStation and Xbox, like they're going to get certified on those platforms, right? I think you move away from the exclusivity there. You have the product that people want to play. Hopefully they don't need supplemental income from some sort of content exclusivity anymore from Sony. My answer would be it's very unlikely, but that they build their own launcher and launch their game there for the PC platform. My preference is I really like what they did with BNet. I think BNet is really strong, and unfortunately they lose the support of Vicarious Visions, who we haven't talked about yet.
And High Moon.
And High Moon, yeah. So how would they handle a PC port?
I mean, that's the thing that blows my mind is like, if, again, I'm sitting here thinking if I'm a Bungie executive and someone pitches me, you know what we should do? We should build our own platform. I'm like, dude, do you know how hard that is? Like, it took Valve.
That's why I think it's unlikely.
Yeah, it took Valve millions and millions of dollars and years to get Steam right. And it finally got it right. Now it's amazing. That's difficult.
Look at Origin.
Yeah.
Look at Origin. Look
Origin's
at
crap.
Uplay.
Yeah.
Origin's like, remember when Origin launched, how bad it was? And today it's like usable, sort of.
Yeah, usable, sort of.
EA is huge.
And EA is huge, exactly. Like the amount of resources and money it would take to develop a platform for Bungie to self-publish, like its own platform, I think that's a tall order. Now, through a third-party platform like a Steam or something. Or Epic. We talked a little bit about this, but like Epic just signed Division 2, like an exclusive deal with Ubisoft.
Yeah.
If they did the same thing with Bungie, man, they would have a good chunk of these specific games where long-term engagement is the goal for their audience under their banner, which is a great thing for them.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, the speculation, I think, I've seen all these things online as well, too. I mean, I'll give them credit because I think that, they probably, again, I said this before, they wanted to do this a long time ago when they first broke free. I think that from a franchise and even from a development, there's just a whole bunch of different avenues that are available now that were not 10 years ago. Like, you think about signing a deal, being involved with something for 10 years. Like, look at how much technology has changed in 10 years.
Yeah.
Did Twitch exist 10 years ago?
No, they even said that in their release statement. I'll dig for it here in my paper.
So as you do that, so just thinking about how fast technology changes, signing a deal any longer than 10 years, initially that's what seemed flabbergasting. It seemed like a long time back then.
I'll read it to you really quick, Steve. When we first launched our partnership with Activision in 2010, the gaming industry was in a pretty different place.
Yeah.
As an independent studio setting out to build a brand new experience, we wanted a partner willing to take a big leap of faith with us. We had a vision for Destiny that we believed in, but to launch a game of that magnitude, we needed the support of an established partner. Today, we said, peace out. And no, that's not real. No.
Today we said.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a really good point. I want to throw a curveball at you guys here, because I think this is an interesting idea that we talked about. I saw people tweeting about this, but what about Microsoft?
See, that's interesting because you flip it on its head, right? They were partnered with Sony for so long with these mini content exclusives.
Well, Activision was, yeah.
Activision was, correct. Really, was that partnership more Activision side and not Bungie side?
The way it appears optically to people outside of the actual development space, it looks more like a Sony and Activision deal, because
Call of Duty.
Well, Activision partnered with Bungie on this, right? They don't own Bungie. Bungie was never owned by Activision, but the way Bungie appeared at E3 and all that stuff, and all the consoles were always PlayStation and always on the Sony stage.
Yeah.
I'll bet you Activision was like, we'll do a deal with Sony, and what we'll ask of Bungie is a small piece of exclusive.
Phil Spencer did make that tweet saying he's really excited to see what they do forward. He's building a stable of independent developers. Here's another thing that I was going to bring up before you said this, but this is perfect. They've never made PC games before. Vicarious Visions made the PC port of Destiny. What if they just went to one console?
Oh God,
That would be kind of crazy,
And that
wouldn't it?
console is Nintendo Switch.
Mobile.
That's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
So I just want to say they need the PC fan base,
Oh,
and the
absolutely.
PlayStation fan base, and the Xbox
Yeah.
fan base back.
I mean, if you're
there's
Bungie,
no
it's
way
not
they're
like
going console
no,
exclusive.
No, of course not.
don't think so.
But
Yeah.
I don't think that's why I think Microsoft's actually an interesting proposition. Like, people think of Microsoft as the Xbox people, and they are, right? But Microsoft, it's no doubt, has a vested
Windows.
interest in PC games.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they have said all of their first party games from here on out, and when I say here on out, I mean whenever Phil actually announced this, like last year, all first party games are going to be Xbox and PC.
play, right?
We take that to mean even Halo 6 or Infinite.
Halo
Yeah.
Infinite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my point is, if you're Bungie and you're looking for the ability to, one, make the game you want, but two, not risk shutting down your studio over a bad move, and you need a partner, a windfall to back you, Microsoft might actually be the right partner, because
Wow.
the
Dude.
way
Yes, and they're going to get something exclusive for it.
the way that they're poised, Microsoft, and this is actually, go check out Unlocked. They've been talking a lot about this. Everyone knows Xbox
job.
One struggled this generation, but the way
Right.
Phil Spencer's been setting up for 2020 and beyond is actually, it's pretty visionary, right?
Yeah.
This idea of a streaming-only console box, building the first-party studios that they have, or not first-party. Well, yeah, they are first-party, like Ninja Theory and all that stuff. Like, they're poised to really make a big splash the next generation, and potentially Destiny's a big part of that, potentially.
Well, absolutely. And if you think even trying to, like the Xbox launch, thinking about like DRM and Connect and all the rest of that stuff, it was a very different time.
Different lead and
Different
everything.
executives.
Yeah,
That's
like,
the other thing, is you
way
might
back
bring up
when.
like, well, Microsoft already had a shot at working with Bungie and they overstepped and Bungie
Not
left, and that's
with
true.
Phil Spencer in the
but
helm.
not with Phil Spencer.
Right.
And I feel like Phil Spencer is
I
really a
believe in
guy
Phil
who
Spencer,
gets who gets what's going on
Yeah.
in the
like a
in this
gamer.
generation. And not only is he a gamer, but he's a developer. Like, he gets what developers face in terms of their creative challenge, and he's really on board with facilitating that.
Yeah.
I mean, who else would get games like Ori and the Blind Forest off the ground, on a major console, right? I just think, and Cuphead, right?
Yeah.
I think, I'm not saying that this is the right move, but if I'm Bungie, and Microsoft wants it, I would at least hear them out.
Well,
Of course.
And the distribution platform is totally different. Like, could maybe Bungie be the first like AAA game that doesn't ship a retail copy? Like, I don't think that that's maybe what they're thinking, but Fortnite is not really shipping retail copies. They're offering codes in stores. You can go there and get a box that says Fortnite. There's no disc in it.
Spoiler warning, that's how they've been doing PC games for a while.
But that's what I mean. I know that. But my point is they haven't been doing console games like that, right? And so console and Xbox games, for the most part, I think have lived in the retail space. And there's a whole bunch of pros and cons about that and how that involves like businesses like GameSpot.
Big pros, like if you don't have to go to disc, you're not paying for boxes, you're not paying for discs. Like that's actually a lot of cost saved.
Yeah,
and if you're independently publishing, that's actually, that's a lot of money saved.
I understand your point. They're absolutely going to be on disc and in stores. There's no way.
I think so too.
There's too much of Middle America.
There's a bunch of stuff that we don't understand. Absolutely. But
but they don't have a publisher. They do not have Activision willing to handle that, and that's one of the things they handled.
Yeah.
You got to focus test box art for different sections of the world. Like there's so much to consider there.
You got to pay the truck drivers to drive the games to the stores. Like
it's all part of it.
It's all
part of it.
Yeah,
the box displays and like making sure brand awareness is apparent in all the stores. There's all that business aspect of it that needs to be considered.
But remember when we talked about like how even just always online, that was like such a problem in the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 launch era. Now it's like you have to play Destiny connected to the internet. Regardless. So even it's like the game is a big game and you don't have a retail disc in it. Like I don't have a disc, I have a download code. And the game has so many updates and there's new DLC and there's a bunch of patch content coming all the time.
That's a good point.
So I know we're going long on this particular topic, but I had one more thing to add, which is the kind of other side of this that no one's talking about. Or I've seen a few people on Twitter talk about it, which is that, we all think that this is a great positive thing for Bungie, and I think there's a lot of reasons to think that. We've also mentioned that there are potentially some cons, right? But from Activision's perspective, I think this is interesting, which is I saw some people tweeting about, like I said, no one counts money better than Activision in this industry. No one.
Oh.
How much do you think this divorce is Activision seeing the decline of Destiny and realizing that we need to cut our losses and get away from this?
I never thought about it from that perspective.
It's an interesting point of view.
That is what I thought when I saw the statement. It's like, and it's separation or a business or a divorce, because there's lots of those things. Like everybody
latched on to that word divorce. One article said the word divorce, and now everybody keeps saying
it is, but it's very true. And your brain goes, okay, well, who initiated it? So there
who
are
gets the house,
and who gets the kids? There's a bunch of things that people start talking about, and you want to assume, and this is potentially maybe the case, that it is all well, and obviously they had some things that led them to this point, but maybe it can go forward and they just can coexist, because obviously they're both not going away. But how does that relationship look moving forward?
Well, I'll say this, just looking at our comment sections over the last few weeks, the negative vitriol on IGN platforms specifically towards Destiny is overwhelming. It's overwhelmingly negative. So like brand perception is something that they're going to have to overcome. Most people aren't going to know that this happened. So when the next one comes out, there's still probably going to be a lot of feelings of betrayal, and somehow they have to figure out what to do with that. I think a lot of people are excited about this. They're willing to give them the chance, and we'll see what happens, but a lot of people aren't even going to know. Steven, do you have anything else you want to add?
Well, my point of view is, like they said in the statement, whenever they started developing Destiny, they had a huge vision for the game, and they couldn't back that up without Activision's money. Activision bought it in, and once they started making the game, they realized they had different points of views, different perspectives that clearly weren't going to make, they weren't going to coerce. So, like, I think it was Jason Schreier that said when they announced that they split from Activision, everyone was happy. They like popped champagne, I think. So what I think is happening is they realized mutually that Activision's plan was not going to match up with Bungie's plan. Because remember, Luke Smith tweeted after that earnings call that they were happy with Forsaken, even though Activision wasn't. So Bungie really they're betting on themselves. Yesterday, Luke Smith tweeted again saying Guardians make their own fate. Which
is a
vault of glass Atheon term. And to me, what they're saying is we know what the community wants. We kind of have a pulse of what they want, which is a lot of Forsaken, and we know how to make that content. And Activision, like you're right, maybe they said maybe they think Destiny or Bungie can't do it, which is why they cut their losses. But Bungie's betting on themselves at this point.
Yeah, and that was the point of view I wanted to bring up. Is like we're all obviously big fans of the game, big supporters of Bungie, and big players of the game. I did see some people like industry analysts and stuff who are not fans of the game and haven't played who said, "Look, if you look at this from outside of being a Guardian and stuff,
Yes.
if Activision counts money better than anyone, and if they were like, there's no money here, that is potentially a really bad sign."
Activision's also been getting hammered since October. Their stock's down like $30 a share.
Yeah.
There's
They're
been
not
other
doing
things.
great.
Yeah.
Blizzard.
Like on that earnings call when they were like, Destiny didn't perform, you think that's a lie? Like, no, they have projections. They have really smart people who are tallying up all this stuff and coming up with projections for what they think the game should do. And if it comes under that, that doesn't fly with a company like Activision.
It didn't say didn't perform. It said it didn't meet their expectations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which again, the phrasing though is important because again, this is how I think miscommunication happens, right? Because I think that it probably was seen as still a good thing and a viable product, but everybody probably has goals that.
Well, obviously not, right? They let them go.
But that's my point. To what extent, I don't know if we'll ever know, right?
Yeah.
You guys are definitely seeing, well, you're trying to see the positive aspect, but the industry's getting hammered right now. EA's stock is in the toilet.
Yeah.
Activision's is too.
Yeah.
And that's been happening since like October. They have major challenges ahead.
Yeah.
So Bungie going independent, this is the best thing for them going forward, for sure, 100%. But there is no doubt about the challenges that they're going to face.
Yeah.
And maybe the revenue that isn't there is Activision goal revenue. But if their goal is just to be creative and develop something and make a little bit of money as opposed to truckfuls of money, I'm okay with that.
And that is where I think the perception lies. Because it's funny, when we heard this in the office, everybody came and was like, what does this mean? And our brains are going like, oh, I think this is Destiny and Bungie being able to kind of do what they want and not feel that pressure. Everybody on the outside is kind of going like, I don't know, man, Activision provided a lot of support. So it's like even in our office, it's crazy how the people, I think like us who feel like we're in tune with Destiny feel one way. And there's very much, like an external perception that, I think there's going to be a bunch of other opinions that come out later on.
I'd like to think that at some point, Bungie said, you know what, the money's great, but it's affecting our creative vision too much, and we don't care that much about the money. We want to make a awesome game.
Yep.
And that's what they're going to do going forward.
I don't think Bungie makes this decision without believing in themselves.
32-03.
Yeah. So let's look at what's going on in Destiny right now. We brought up Niobe Labs and the community before this explosion of news happened. Had a lot to say about it. Niobe Labs was a puzzle that was included in the game, and it was supposed to unlock the Forge when somebody solved it. Guess what? They still haven't solved it.
Crazy.
Hopefully Glad does it. Hopefully any of the other streamers working on it does it. But shout out to Glad for his commitment.
And Datto too. Oh,
Datto,
man.
yeah,
it was
Datto
there
stayed
for a
on it for
long
like 30
time.
hours.
Yeah.
So some of the reactions just from Twitter were, here's one from Blue Westlow. He says, Niobe Labs is clearly cool. Having a huge puzzle bringing the community together is awesome. The issue is how remarkably out of place the activity is. The reason people love these puzzles is because they are bonuses on a journey, not requirements to continue it. So let's use that as a kickoff to our reactions to Niobe Labs and what we thought about this sort of puzzle event and how everything went. Because eventually Bungie said they're not going to solve it. We're going to unlock it for everybody anyway. And then the TLDR version is that everybody felt weird and sort of burnt by it because they invested that time. At least the 5 people that were trying to do it did.
Okay, well, that's different because that is not everybody, and that's what's weird is that we're talking about this. Did you try it?
I did.
Did you?
I did not.
Did you? Nope. Okay, so 3 out of 4 of us didn't try it. Now, I logged on and saw Datto and others doing it. I am at the place where I wanted to try it. I was going to dial you guys up and say, hey, let's give this a shot. There was a part of me that was kind of like glad that the streamers
How'd you
couldn't
point
do
to
it.
them? Not me.
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
I said like I was going to call you guys up.
Give me a call?
No, I was going to call you guys up and say,
cool.
hey, let's give it a shot. But only because stop that. But only because the streamers couldn't do it. So it was the first time that even though
hey, I have a chance.
yes,
Can I solve the puzzle?
You don't.
CJ, I stayed up because I'm like, I want to contribute. I want to figure out something that nobody has figured out. And I feel like
Yes.
a lot of people in the community stayed that way.
Yes.
I was up till like 3 a.m. watching Datto. I'm like, how can I help him?
Yes.
What can I do? And that's what Raid Secrets is doing.
Exactly.
That was a really cool feeling.
Because this is the thing that I think that in the Vidoc, I was watching it yesterday, Steve and Scott both said, the funny thing with surprises is we can't tell you them. And sometimes we're going to land on a good surprise and sometimes we're not. And he kind of basically alludes to that in the video. What's weird is that I think this is one of those things where it wasn't really tied behind grinding to power level. I mean, assuming
you had to
650.
Yeah.
Right? Like assuming we're all at 650, which I am, and I haven't even done a lot of the content yet from raids and all that stuff. But that's what's crazy. You felt like you had a chance if you were at 650. It was not, hey, grind for a week, get there maybe, and not know what the power level is. This kind of felt like everybody was on an even playing field. That's what I think's interesting to me.
I have very mixed feelings about Niobe Labs. I like it. I like that they added puzzles. I don't like it because they locked a lot of people out of content. So the majority of the player base is just sort of sitting around waiting for like the 5 streamers who are really, really close and regularly getting there to unlock this so that they could experience the new content.
I felt like we were kind of cheering them all on in a way. I did feel like it unified the community in a weird way. Unfortunately, sometimes it does feel at the expense of Bungie getting crapped on. And I kind of hate that because then it turns into like, oh, this is dumb. Why would you guys do this?
Right?
I mean,
I wouldn't say that it's dumb. I think...
Oh, but people, like a lot of people were, and that's my point. You see that.
I mean,
that's
I'm
the
kinda one of those
frustration
people,
reaction.
right?
There you go.
Like,
What
I'm not
was
saying
what was dumb about it?
Like, I just don't think an activity that literally no one can solve is fun.
Well, it's not, but your brain
So-
does not know that going in. It's only until it starts to go, okay, if Datto can't do it, then yeah, I feel like not every mortal man can.
I'm going to agree with what you said, but in a sort of a different way. I think the puzzles weren't telegraphed clearly enough. There was a lot of things in like the actual implementation of the puzzles. Like when you get a symbol correct or you do something correct, there is no indicator until you input the entire
So
long sequence and then you get a bong.
like why specifically it doesn't work, I think that's a different conversation, right? But what I look at is I followed a good amount of it on Twitch.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it myself yet, but I do think that there's a difference between having a high barrier to entry, something that's hard and difficult and requires a good amount of knowledge and skill and teamwork to achieve, something like the raid, versus an activity that's way too obscure such that the greatest and strongest players can't figure it out. Because what hope does it give the rest of us? And that's the problem is like, I think that most people felt like this is something that they'll never be able to do. And so they're stuck waiting for someone else to achieve it before that they can even get to the content. Now, what's interesting is I did see some people talking about how it's not just the puzzle itself is fine. It's the fact that content's behind it that no one can get to. So maybe if there was no content behind it and something else was behind it, a surprise of some sort, maybe that'd be more palatable for people.
That's why they open it. But an additional problem is the thing that's behind it is a ghost and an emblem. I think that's kind of crazy.
The reward.
Yeah, so like
The
remember,
reward is nothing,
because
basically.
this idea, I'm not actually fighting for this idea that
Well, the reward's solving the puzzle. Sorry, I don't want to say it's nothing. It's the victory of solving the puzzle. Of
Right.
course,
Your brain
but I
attaches
want to
what
bring
you-
up a separate situation where I think Bungie did this thing very well, which is like remember Wrath of the Machine, like that exotic. What was it?
Yeah,
An auto
Outbreak
rifle?
Prime.
Outbreak Prime, right?
Yeah.
That puzzle was in the raid since the beginning of the raid, and no one found out about it for months.
Yeah.
And I thought when they did, it was a huge moment, and it did all the
cool.
things you said that this
You
is doing.
found out about it in that moment.
Yeah.
When
were there,
it was
yeah.
solved, I was in the raid. Data was at that part, and I was like, everybody stop.
Yeah. So what I thought, so the things that this puzzle is doing in terms of unifying the community, creating excitement and support for the people who are getting it done, that all existed with Outbreak Prime.
Yeah.
But the expectation level of the community was different, which is that with Outbreak Prime, we had no idea what was behind that puzzle. We just knew that it was kind of there. And it ended up being something we wanted. With this, we expected like this unlocks the Forge, and the Forge better be awesome because no one can do it. And that's a different perspective that I think didn't work.
There's also a different perspective. I had this debate with CJ.
Yeah.
This puzzle, let's not even talking about what like the mechanics are of the puzzle. This puzzle is locking you out of content that you are expecting. There are 4 forges. We got 3. We knew Niobe Labs was something to do with the Forge, and then I think a day before
They
Niobe
told us
Labs
it
came
would
out.
unlock the Forge.
They told us a day before though.
Right.
This is actually unlocking part of the DLC. The Outbreak Prime gave us a weapon. It did not lock campaign missions. It did not lock the ending of the raid.
Yep.
It was a bonus supplement quest or a riddle. This is completely locking you out of content, and to 99.9% of the community, it does feel like I paid for the content. I can't play the content until streamers unlock the content.
Yeah.
And then going into the puzzle itself, the thing people like about raids and stuff like that are there's mechanics to it. You're shooting people actively or shooting aliens actively. And it feels like, oh, this worked. Like, let's try this. This is you're doing waves and waves and waves. You're guessing for 30 seconds.
No checkpoint.
No checkpoint.
Yeah.
You have no idea if you're getting close to it. If you wipe on wave 7, you have to do everything again, and you don't even know how close you got to completing it. On a raid, you can see you got this close to killing the boss with his health. You got like the mechanics unlock something, or like you're progressing.
The raids also teach you throughout the steps of the raid. So by the time you're at the final boss, oh, okay, we got to throw the balls at the thing to stop the wipe mechanic.
There's things where you're progressing toward it, and this did not feel like it at all. Like I Ninja unlocked wave 7 or wave 6 by saying, "Dude, let's just stand here and shoot this thing," and it worked.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
It's like trial and
hint,
error. Yeah.
The hint was a French tree, right? Like, and somebody said, "Let's stand on Butterfly and shoot the hell out of the tree," and it worked.
this riddle didn't feel like Destiny to me.
Yeah.
I
It
agree.
did not feel like Destiny at all. However, I do love the fact that they are doing things like riddles and puzzles like that. This shouldn't discourage them from doing things like this. Like,
Just improve.
Agreed.
yeah, Penumbra is supposed to be a DLC of all riddles and things like that. I'm hoping it's not like this.
Yeah.
But
I mean-
but when so let's rewind though and pretend yesterday's news didn't happen. Looking at the
Oh, this
feedback,
episode would be much more negative.
well, but that's my point. So I'm really hoping that people actually still feel that way about Bungie, because it's not my sense that people do. I feel like constantly that people forget. Like, people say things and then they go, oh, well, now this is good now because we're going to be much more patient. And no, people are not. Absolutely, they're not. I think they believe that they will, but in the moment, people will not.
Yeah, of
Let's
course.
see how people reacted in the moment. Actually, I have some tweets here. Here's from Ramez. He was not happy. On a more serious note, making content that was clearly aimed exclusively for content creators and relying on them to unlock it for the bottom 99% was a big mistake on Bungie. Lesson learned: game is either too casual or too hardcore. That's Destiny in a nutshell.
It's
They
true.
didn't find
It
the
is.
sweet spot. They
It
did
very
not find
much
the
is a
sweet spot.
pendulum going back and forth.
Yeah.
Say No to Rage just said, been live streaming for 32 plus hours working on this. Would have been pretty fun to get clues on the hour instead of this. So, like, instead of just being locked out perpetually, they never gave a hint about that wave.
And I think
And
that
I would have really liked to see
mean,
a hint.
I said that too in my tweet.
You shouldn't
right?
need hints, right? Like, if you're
Oh, well, okay. Better design.
better
would have been
design should
great.
indicate it, right? So that's the thing, is like the stuff I saw, the charts and the like for
The sword hilt with the
like,
stone.
What's the Rosetta
It's a
Stone?
cipher.
The Rosetta
Yeah.
Stone, the ciphers that people created to figure out these really obscure puzzles. That's too much, man. Like, this isn't. I'm not Indiana Jones. Like, I shouldn't have to put together like crazy amounts of stuff like that. That said, I'm not against puzzles. I like puzzles, right? But I do think like there's a right way to do it for what Destiny is and a wrong way. And I think this might skew more in the wrong way.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were talking about, have they ever really done something like this? And the analogy that Steven and I, or when we were talking, that I use is like, I think Dogs was probably one of the most ambiguous encounters in a raid where you just didn't really understand what was happening. Now, I'm not comparing this to Dogs, but you guys are all saying, oh yeah, I like puzzles, but there's not enough information. I didn't know if I was doing it right or all that stuff. I felt like that when we did the Leviathan with Dogs.
Really? Well, the dogs have telegraphs, though. There's plants that only light up in that
Yes.
section and glow.
Yes.
There are clearly dogs that you wipe when they kill you. Like, there were hints,
There
right?
were hints.
In this, there's no hints. There's that one section
a
where
sound cue.
somebody on Reddit figured out that it's a levels puzzle, and you have to shoot all this stuff in the right way. And the only way they knew it was successful is when they shot those 12 icons in the right way and then passed it. Like, Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. I think what's interesting though is I was potentially expecting external hints through their Twitter or something. I thought this was going to be one of these things where it's like,
Should it
But it
be like
shouldn't.
that?
well,
Yeah,
no,
like,
I'm not
definitely
I'm not
shouldn't.
saying that it should, but these are the kind of things that I think that if they're not so concerned about having to meet deadlines and this and that they might try more of in the future to kind of see, because I think the coolest part about Destiny is the fact that you can engage with like the community and go back and forth solving things online and tweeting things. Oh, this is what we got going on here. What do you guys have? So I don't think that's a good thing overall, but I think there's some positive things to be gleaned from this, even though the
I
experience
agree
is
with you.
probably
I just
negative.
don't think Bungie is like, this isn't The Witness, you know? Like, I shouldn't be like a madman scribbling like in different languages in a notebook.
But
to be
dude,
able
the
to figure out how to
raid
get
Last
through this.
Wish was kind of like
But
that.
it
wasn't
isn't.
like that.
It's
No,
not.
but it
and
had,
here's- and
it had like
personally-
call-outs where it was the first time where I was like, okay, I have to look and go, okay, dragon left this, like, until you actually learned the raid and the call-outs and the mechanics. You're right, it was much more mechanic based.
The
this
cipher
is
was
where
designed for you and telegraphed to each of the players, though.
You're
so
right.
You had all the tools you needed to solve
in the
puzzle.
game. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is where I disagree with CJ.
Well, I guess you do sort of. That's a bad argument.
Like there were a ton of symbols in the raid, and at first it's very overwhelming. But then as you're wiping it, which you should be the first time you're doing a raid, you realize, oh, okay, there's like 12 total symbols. Clearly, there's something matching up. Like you're progressing towards something.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Like there's absolutely
Wave
nothing.
7, there's,
Yeah, like-
there's the symbols on
There's
the ground.
3 swords. Like
yeah.
Have you guys played The Witness? At the beginning, there are
Yeah.
a bunch of puzzles
Oh,
that you look
yes.
and you're like, I have no idea how to do that. And then you come back later on after you've learned a bunch about the game's mechanic and the language that it teaches you, and then you can solve it. That's how the game should be, which is like when you go into a raid, you're not aware of what you're looking at, but as you, through trial and error, through experimentation, through hypothesis and success, you formulate a strategy that works. That process didn't seem to exist in the Niobe Labs. It was
doesn't.
literally all guesswork.
Yeah.
And there was no way to tell if your guesses were even
accurate or correct.
And that's the main way that I feel that they need to improve with it. I don't really have any other points I want to say about Niobe besides that it was an emotional roller coaster. It's kind of like, oh, I'm not even going to do it. I'm just going to let streamers do it. Oh, they didn't do it? Oh, I guess we'll check it out. All right, that's kind of cool.
That's
oh, man,
interesting.
Dado's stuck on that thing. I want to help him. I cannot sleep. There has to be something.
Yes.
All right, it's Void, Solar, and Arc. What could that mean? Like, is it the supers?
Also, are
Where do
all
they
of these
stand? Why are
symbols-
the swords different?
these trees,
Background.
these different types of trees. Like what place does that have in the Destiny storytelling and the lore?
And in my mind, and I hate saying this, for the first time, I felt like streamers became mortal men. I felt like it was like they've probably been propped up in a way where they're just kind of like, we can't relate. I mean, they really can't sometimes. And I think that it's interesting to have seen them go like, yeah, I can't do it. Because
What if the solution's everybody just shoots the monitors? Like just something very innocuous.
here's the
and
thing.
easy.
I just want to point
when
out,
someone-
my raid group never did that in
When-
Wrath of the
I
Machine.
still did it.
Yeah.
when someone says this content is exclusively designed for streamers, what they're saying is streamers, their livelihood depends on streaming a game for the people who do play hours and hours a day. And when you play a game for that long, hopefully you're good at the game, right? You have enough time to grind all the content, so you're going to have all the weapons, because you do need all the forged weapons to even unlock or to even attempt Niobe.
You need 3, right?
Well, you need
Bow,
the
bow,
auto
sniper.
bow, LMG, and sniper. Or do you need the auto? Maybe not.
Bow,
Either way,
sniper,
you need to have done the content to do Niobe
Yes.
Labs. So when people are saying streamers, they're saying for the 1% who has enough time to do all the content. However, the reason why streamers are always the ones that finish it is because they have a very big knowledge of the mechanics of the game, and they have the time to unlock this. This, like, well, CJ was saying, this was something streamers can do. I'd argue it doesn't matter. There's no skill level involved in this. There's no concept or knowledge or any mechanic-based thing that you got in previous Destiny raids that would have helped you with this.
It's raid secrets, knowing about
Literally-
Norse,
this is
Japanese,
all-
literally
Viking
luck.
This
If
is
you
all
mythology.
guess right.
guesswork,
Yeah.
luck. There's no like
I
ball
would
throwing or anything.
I would argue strongly that it's not luck because of how much effort the Reddit community put into solving these puzzles. There's definitely a causal link between
It's
each
not
up
complete
until
luck
part
like
seven.
you're just shooting at random things, but at a point where you've exhausted all your options, it's like let's just stand on Butterfly and just shoot the freaking thing. That's all luck.
But I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's a reason they stood on Butterfly, and there's a reason they shot trees
Because nothing else
out of
worked.
frustration. And I would argue that that's bad puzzle design
Oh, it
when
is
it's
bad
not
puzzle design.
telegraphed enough. But I don't think they solved it. Well, okay, that one I'll say they solved through luck.
That was all
Yeah.
luck. I was watching Ninja at that point where three people have to stand on Butterfly and shoot a tree.
Yeah.
I think 1% shoot a tree. Those two were happened to be right next to when he shot a tree, and it worked.
But my point is, I am still just intrigued by just that concept, because you're right. I agree with you. It is
What
luck.
concept?
It seems
The
odd.
puzzle solving concept.
Well, the fact of just like everybody coming together with social media and Reddit, and that being a part of the game that's not really in the game. I get it. It's not positive. We don't like it for the most part. But
Wait,
it's
wait,
an
what are you
interesting
saying we don't
concept.
like?
Well, that like you should be out. You shouldn't have to go outside of the game in order to figure it out in a way. Like that's mostly what we're saying here. It's like if something's based on luck, should
It's
be able to
not-
have it all
no,
figured out in the
it's
game.
not.
with
I
it.
mean, that's a part of it. What I'm saying is
I don't
like
mind that Reddit helps.
Well, I mean, you had to go outside the game for Outbreak Prime. Like that's
yeah, unless you knew binary off the top of your head.
yeah. It's like I think what CJ is saying is it's a great thing that the community came together and are working together for this thing. And Destiny was top 3 in the Twitch directory for it's
Yeah.
been a while since it's been like that. But the mechanic itself wasn't fun to watch. It was like you're watching them do 6 waves and then they have 30 seconds. Hopefully they get lucky.
A checkpoint or something. Yeah, more information would have been. I was really hoping they would have just given a hint somewhere on social
too.
media, or because I felt bad for the people who weren't able to do it.
I just
They
foresee.
could have been cagey about it. It's been 24 hours.
Well, I
Maybe
foresee
you
a
should
good
shoot
million
this.
Guardians are out
Yeah.
there who hate the idea of being like, I want to do something in the game. I have to get a Twitter account now. Like this idea of, I think it's cool how it brings the community together and how the community can interact with one another to help solve a puzzle or a thing together. That's cool. But if that's built into the design, like it's meant to be that way, or you have to go to Reddit, now you need a Reddit account in order to be able to talk to people to get this thing done. Like I think that's bad design.
So let's give some feedback, just simple feedback. How do you improve for the next puzzle that you implement? And I think the number one thing that we all agree on is don't lock everybody else out of a mission because streamers can't solve a puzzle. The second,
So this is a debate I had with CJ for like
Yes.
hours the other day, and I want to get your take on it. CJ was saying the forge wasn't locked because as soon as anyone did the Niobe Labs, it was open,
There was a path,
which is the same
Yeah.
as the last mission in the campaign isn't locked. You just have to get to it by beating the previous missions. And that's interesting to me, but I do think it is locked. What
no, that's crazy. It was literally locked until one other player did it.
But isn't that the same? So I'm on kind of both sides. CJ's point is the last mission of a campaign locked?
If you haven't done the other campaign missions.
yeah, you have to get to it
That's
in order
not-
to beat it.
I think it's a bad analogy. So I'm not going to say that it is locked or not because you're progressing through a story.
So
This
would
isn't
you want
progressing through
Bungie
a
to
story,
let
this
you
is
play
solving
the last mission of the campaign first without playing the rest of it? Would you want like a chapter marker where you're like, hey, I can access any part of this I want. If I
want to
play
know
the
that
very
I
end.
can play that final campaign mission, not that I'm locked out of it until CJ does it first.
I don't know.
That's the philosophy.
So CJ's
Is
point,
the end
CJ's
of
point is-
Battletoads locked because you suck too much to get to it?
Okay,
Like
here's the thing, CJ. I get to the final mission and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go, but I can't because CJ didn't solve the puzzle yet.
Well, so now you can
That's
solve
what
the
it
puzzle.
was.
Exactly. That's what CJ's point to me was. You could do it. Like you could solve the puzzle and unlock.
I'm not going to solve any puzzles. Come on.
So you agree that the forge is locked? Because I was
think it
saying
was
the
lo-
forge is locked.
I think it's.
content.
I would have before they unlocked.
But I
it
do
for the rest of
understand
the
what CJ's
community,
saying as well.
I would say it was locked
I'm trying to think outside the box here, and I think that more often.
outside the lock.
Oh, so there you go. And I guess the
mystery
forge,
box?
yeah, it didn't have a roof either. And everybody's like, how do
You're
we
locked
drop
out of the
in?
mystery box. You're locked out of the forge. You can't do it. Like that's it for you.
So my point was the last mission of a campaign is technically locked from that point of view, but you know how to get to the last mission. People have already done it. It's on you to get to that last mission.
it's also it's just
This.
a grind or a skill based thing. It's not a external puzzle that you have to solve.
That's
later.
true too. So
So you don't think it's locked?
No, I was trying to play
Playing
devil's
devil's
advocate. Yeah, to argue the fact that I think that when you look at it and if you take it in the context like that, you could say, okay, the expectation was, oh, we knew there was something behind that. That's the forge. I was promised that. You owe me. But if they didn't communicate anything and you didn't know what, quote, quote, you were supposed to get, and the secret was the secret, that I think it's constantly the communication game. That's
So
the part of it
that
where
actually
I go,
goes back to what Destin was
okay,
saying. Is like if we were going to give feedback, I'd say one of my main pieces of feedback is like if you're going to put something behind a puzzle or behind like an achievement or something, like maybe don't
say
tell what it is to help people what it is, because you'll change their expectations.
And in the roadmap, they kind of didn't. They said Niobe Labs, not a fourth forge, but we kind of knew, and they said it they said it the day before, right? Like, and so the messaging is always. That's the tricky part with Bungie. It's always what is said, how you interpret it, and then watching Reddit and the community and Twitter and everybody else kind of do their thing and seeing how it kind of evolves, right?
They also set an
yeah, it
expectation
is-
with the release cadence of them.
No, totally.
So-
It does come down to expectation and release cadence. Like if they never told us that there were 4 forges, we would not know what to expect, and we wouldn't be so, or people wouldn't be so pissed that they couldn't get to the last DLC forge that they paid for because no one could find out this convoluted puzzle.
That's my own. Yeah, that was my only.
Here's what's still driving me absolutely nuts. That has me opening up Twitch to see what's going on.
Yeah.
I just want to know what the answer is. What's the answer to part 7?
Yeah.
Well, then
What was the thing that we were supposed to be able to figure out, and what were we missing this whole time?
You're right, because it gets to the point where it's not like, yes, we finished it. It's God damn,
Yeah, that took
finally.
forever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's definitely
And
where
they're
we're at.
treading in that water.
So in that feedback, I think like if you're going to make the reward, again, going back to feedback, I love this idea of putting something very, very worthwhile and awesome behind something, but not changing people's expectations about what it is, and then it taking a long time, like Outbreak Prime.
Yeah.
Like, again, sorry to bring this up, World of Warcraft.
Wow.
There are puzzles in
Didn't
that
expect
game
that.
that literally there are puzzles in that game that literally took people 6 months to 10 months to figure out. And it's because they wanted to figure out the puzzle and had fun doing it, not because they expected or wanted or were promised something that's behind it.
And that's an expectation thing, is that's what the World of Warcraft players are saying in the office. Like, oh, only 24 hours? Man, they just gave it to them.
That's
Yeah,
the problem
seriously.
too, because we live in an era of instant gratification now.
Yep.
And I think what the community wants is they want puzzles, they want secrets that take less than 24 hours to solve, but no longer than that, because we want the reward.
Now that I could do other stuff, I'm glad the puzzle's there. I think whoever solves it, they deserve a better reward. But the fact that I literally couldn't do anything and I just have to sit on my hands because all my characters are max level, there's no weapons for me left to chase.
Was Crucible shut down? Could you not play any of the raids? Was the rest of the game
I'm
locked
saying,
in order for you
I've
to...
literally completed everything. They said this is new content day where you're going to be able to finish
all the triumphs
box,
are done.
you're gonna
All
be-
the triumphs are achieved. You got
Yeah.
all the...
how many titles?
You got all the titles?
0. I don't want any of that stuff. I wanted to complete the Black Armory segment
Because
that I
you
had.
knew it was there. Because
but you see the point
heard
he's
there was.
making, though,
Yeah,
right?
I do, and that's all I'm saying. I agree. It's funny. I think that it's constantly the expectation thing.
I can't. If you ever say I can't do the thing that I want to do because 4 streamers who are still trying that thing and banging their head against the wall haven't finished it yet, like that's not a good feeling.
Oh, absolutely. But if you didn't know what it was and it was some kind of random puzzle, and then when the streamers or people figured it out, it just opened up this cool new thing for
that
everybody.
would be great. That's not what they did though.
Right. And to me that
Well, eventually it is. They just unlocked it, right?
Yeah, they
but
just
because
opened
it
it
was
up.
too hard and people were angry.
But it's interesting. To me, it's like that. I just hope that moving forward, that's what I'm saying. If Bungie does something like this in the future, there's going to be this connotation now. It's like, oh, that's Bungie. And I hope that people potentially have this sympathetic, maybe compassion side of them that comes through.
Compassion on the internet.
Exactly. That's my point.
This ties into
like
this.
it's really weird to hear.
This also ties into hardcore and casual, because you can't just have your game completely hardcore. Because if you think about it, if you're someone outside looking in and you're not a devoted Destiny fan, and you think to yourself, I want to get into this, but I don't want to have to rely on the top 1% to actually play the game.
You know what I do, Steven? I just don't play the game.
Exactly.
And that's what most people do, and that's
which is why this is dangerous, which is why I don't like when they completely block off new content with things like this. They need to block off supplementary content, quests, or exotics and things like that, then I think people like it.
Yeah.
Like if this didn't block off the last Forge, I don't think anyone would have complained.
Yeah.
No.
Plus, like,
Exactly.
I'm not complaining that it's hard. Like, you guys know me. I like it when things are difficult in the game.
I don't mind. I
But
was
it should
actually
be-
mad when they unlocked the Forge.
Yeah.
Because, like,
Yes.
They shouldn't
they
have done
should
it.
I
have.
wanted a hint.
But
Yeah.
like something needs to be reasonably hard, right? Like for a reasonably knowledgeable and skilled player, they should be able to figure it out.
Yes.
If your best and brightest and most dedicated and most skilled guardians in the whole world can't do it, you got a problem.
I know Bungie likes the number 7. What if this is 7 of like 10 or 7 of 15?
7 out of 77.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, what if they have way
Yeah,
more to
no
go?
one-
Somebody made a Dilbert comic where it's like, oh, well, we should probably just let them try and figure it out, right? What part are they on? Oh, we've opened the.
So this is funny because
Yeah.
someone was like, the reason why they unlocked it were because like Jesus, they're only on 7. There's 15. Just give it to them.
They'll never make it to
Yeah,
Jesus, just give it to them. They're hopeless.
And I do. I sometimes feel like they're probably laughing at all. I was like, look at those rats.
Well,
But it is-
they
it's a
have that
dangerous
theater.
game in a
They,
way,
they
yeah.
have that theater room to watch
Yes.
the community do it. But it would be funny if no one knows this is the last wave, right? So like it would be
Don't.
funny if they were like, dude, they're only on 7. It's been 29. Let's just give it to them.
Here's another analogy. Sorry, this is the last
Okay,
thing.
all right.
CJ, I really want to play your game. Okay, Destin, that's cool. Solve this Rubik's Cube first. No, I just want to play your game. Nope, not until you solve the Rubik's Cube.
I don't like
you know what?
Rubik's
I
Cubes,
don't want to
so-
play it that bad.
But I don't like Rubik's Cubes. If I actually was like a professional Rubik's Cube player or wanted to be invested into doing that, I probably would do it. And
Hey, CJ, I really
it's-
want to play your game. Play this game you don't like first in its entirety.
Well, to
I
me-
really hate that game.
My problem was with the whole like you could do it too.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it too, but the mechanics of the puzzle were so convoluted and big. You couldn't do it. So it's the same thing as saying
Maybe.
there's a 10-foot rim.
Oh,
And as
don't do it.
soon as anyone dunks the ball, you can do it. Hey, 4'11" guy, you can dunk the ball too. Well, go for it. It's like I can't dunk the ball. Are you kidding?
Oh, I guess you're going to have to wait.
Well, guess you can't go behind the doors then.
I was okay. I'm sure we need to wrap up the show on
devil's
those
advocate thing was
analogies.
really fun.
I know, and I
But
just
that's
like
what it was.
doing that. I just like doing that. For me, it's this. I played over 10,000 Halo 2 matches. We were adding these up. I think 4,000 or 5,000 Halo 3, like 2,000 or 3,000 Reach, and those games were just PvP. I probably played the campaign 2 or 3 times in each of those games, but I played those games just because of the community,
Yeah.
PvP, and the game felt good. To me, a lot of PvE is kind of like all extras, which crazy is we don't talk about Crucible that often because I think it's, you know,
It sucks.
Well, there's also
no, it doesn't suck.
PvP is not good right now.
No, okay.
You know me, I'm a huge PvP
No,
guy too.
I disagree. Like I've been going for Not Forgotten. I have a bunch of like
that's not
fusions and all that stuff.
PvP.
No, but my point is, I actually like the new meta overall. But for the most part, I
compared
think.
to Destiny. or
But that's
Year
the thing.
One.
People are still latching on to what Destiny 1 was, and that I think
And
will
Halo 2.
always be
You're
their
that
Halo
Halo.
3
guy.
And Halo Reach.
I know.
You're the
Well,
person who's
okay,
always like,
so
Destiny 2 is
this
as
all
good as
ties
Destiny
back.
1
This
PvP.
all ties back
But
into the
I'm
previous
still
thing.
liking it.
We haven't had a legit PvP sandbox update in like 5 months. That's not Activision's fault, right?
Yeah,
So like things like that.
In the background, I'm sure there are some pressure things.
by the way,
though.
there is a
Yeah,
Bungie
maybe.
update being released like now.
Yeah.
that
they're
was
gonna
that
talk,
was
they're gonna
delayed.
talk about the
Yeah.
sandbox update. But what
They
I'm
are
saying
going
is
to talk about a sandbox update.
I
We'll
think-
bring it up next week.
Yeah, I think though what you're saying is I think there's a lot of those things in the background that we might not ever know. And
That's
I think,
true.
I
Like,
think
they
that
might
those
have to
things
devote-
have impacted because they're shifting resources. Like if you
Yes.
think that Curse of Osiris and Warmind and all the problems that quote people said that they were tuning and fixing,
Yes.
and in that time they still made Forsaken. Like, and again, they had assistance, but those things all like it just didn't happen out of nowhere.
No, of course not.
Like
true. But I also
What does that have
fail.
to do with anything?
I also fail to see.
You're
I also fail to
joking.
see how how they don't have to rely or cater to Activision's schedule makes sandbox updates come faster. Like I don't see
because
that happening
that's the
either.
yeah. It's not a matter of like release schedule and stuff. It's a matter of figuring out what the right thing to do is, and if something is really overpowered or imbalanced, or if people are just whining because they suck.
I don't have any
And
new
guess what?
exotics.
It's usually the latter.
I don't have any new exotics. So you got to nerf those before I get a chance to play them?
They did. They nerfed Thousand Voices.
Cool.
on
Okay, well,
PC.
I'm not happy.
Well, it's no.
Well,
Well,
nobody's ever going to be happy.
There you go.
That's true.
well,
that's my point.
like what I'm talking about is like
final segment was supposed to be just a few ways they could improve their next puzzle. That's all I wanted to talk about.
Okay, well,
We're kind of way off the
thing.
rails.
The thing what I'm talking about is like with the bug with Guishin's vest, you could literally have unlimited super. It took them a month or two to fix that. It shouldn't take a month or two to fix an unlimited super.
That's not broken.
Yeah.
I'm a hunter.
Yeah. All right, we're at an hour and 5 minutes. Or so.
Ooh, quick
we
question.
should probably wrap it
Quick
up.
question,
Yeah.
Destin. This is basically the end of Black Armory now. Would you change your review score?
No.
Still 5.5?
Yeah, I'm still there. Like, and a lot of the issues that I brought up within the review still remain. Like, I'm on the very grindy quest now to finish unlocking the box.
Yeah.
And well, yes, it does give you something to do. I just feel like there should be more variation there. So yeah, I might go back retroactively and add more context now that more content's been released. But yeah, I mean, that's just
The score doesn't change for you.
the
even with the
number,
raid and all that?
number that everybody latches onto, like that didn't really change. The raid's still bugged.
What'd you give it again?
The raid's still
5.5?
very easy.
5.5, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Anyway,
11.5 from me.
11. Wow. Anyway,
like
that's
Black
that's where I landed. It doesn't matter. Your opinion still matters, and how you feel about the game is what's the most important. Don't worry about a dumb number that I put on a game. That said, that's all we have for this episode. Good luck to Bungie with your new independence. We're really, really excited to see what you do next. Until next time, everybody, Guardians out.